Well, as you can see from this photo behind me, winter came traipsing in at the end of this last week. It was beautiful. I watched we had a power outage. This was Thursday. We had a power outage at noon and it came back on at 2:30. And at 2:30, it began to hail. A pea-sized shape hail, and the hail got smaller and smaller and smaller until it finally changed over to snow. And then it continued to snow on into the night. We got about 5.5 inches of snow. It's marvelous, but snow is a responsibility for us. It it's beautiful, lovely, cold. We're spending some really seriously cold time. It's still 30 degrees this morning, and we had temperatures down as low as 13 degrees over the last few days. And then what is going on in the planetary dance? I'm basically going to start out looking at, Wednesday as the very first time to pay attention to this celestial dance going on for this week. And it's Tuesday right now. The process of getting through the snow has, kind of allowed me to just sit back and kind of go, wow, snowed in. This is great. I enjoy the heck out of that. On Wednesday, we have our first quarter moon at about 27 degrees of Aries. And, as Dane Rudger referred to the first quarter moon as a crisis in action. And you go, yeah, what exactly does that mean? Crisis in action. Well, it's a square between the two lights, the sun and the moon. Sun is that vitality of energy that basically is life. And the moon is a reflection of that light. And this crisis and action point, Aries, action, which is where the moon is, that driving impulse to do something. Well, the first quarter moon, every first quarter moon says, from the things that were set up as your intentions at the new moon, which happened up there in Capricorn and was in a really nice trine to Uranus, kind of shaking things up and making the potential for that initiation phase to not necessarily sit comfortably, because there was some kind of a background, or was it foreground, rattly kind of an energy that was saying, I feel like I need to do something, but what is it? And there were sudden things that might show up that could spin us off into tangents here and there. Anyway, we get to this first quarter moon and we have to say, have I, do I, and can I actually facilitate, this is the first quarter moon I'm talking about, all the things that are on my plate that I want to do. That first quarter moon phase says, I have a lot of things on my to-do list, and I have to weigh it, what is realistic for my capacity of being actually able to handle all those things that are on that to-do list. This is the crisis in action that first quarter moon stands for. It's right there near the end of Aries. You can kind of see down here in the chart. And we still have a Mars factor in play that's out of bounds, and will be until near the end of this week. And this week, yes, Wednesday, Mercurial Day. And Mercury up here is forming a sextile with Saturn in Pisces, which is forming a sextile with Jupiter down here in Taurus. And we have this trine forming between the Mercury and Jupiter. Trines and sextiles, these speak to an energy that says, we have things to do together, and there really aren't, encumbrances that stand in the way of accomplishing those things that we want to do. We just have to, remember, first quarter crisis in action moon. We have to make sure that the appropriateness of what it is that we are aiming for is, is what it is we're going to do and what it is that we can do. We have the energy, trines and sextiles, they give us the energy that says that Mercury, how I think and what I want to talk about, they're, that, or what do I want to learn? These are the factors that are saying, yeah, okay, we're on board. Our energy's percolating. And just then Saturn says, yeah, well, if you're going to do it, you got to be practical about it. Is Capricorn, is your mountain that you are trying to attain the peak of, that crest or the top of the mountain kind of awareness, is it appropriate? Saturn is, ruler of Capricorn. And Pisces saying, make sure that you are doing the things that you are meant to do. There are options of things to do all the time. And Jupiter, of course, down here in Taurus, well, Jupiter's a driving energy that says, don't hold back. Jupiter says, oh, yeah, well, Jupiter, don't hold back. Oh, I see those two energies. They don't always jive well with one another. Saturn trying to make sure that we don't overextend ourselves. Jupiter saying, yeah, overextend yourself. Don't hold yourself back. Anyway, we got this trine sextile dance going on with that Mercury up there in Capricorn saying, from the Capricorn perspective, are there factors of meaningful context for what it is that we as the family of man are, going to be, if, appropriately, headed toward, with meaningful context that, can really reflect in a nice way what our mission is of beingness. That's a big thing to try and contemplate. But I'm going to let you, work on that one yourselves. The planets are basically, our Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter are not really necessarily standing in the way of that. They're actually saying, go for it. I give you permission to really tune into what your mission in life is, and with foresight that you are attempting to ascend an appropriate mountain. The next event, we come all the way to Friday, and on Friday we have three things that happen. Mercury, does, it exacts its trine with Jupiter. There are possibilities that the language of, of one's perspective from whatever height on the mountain you have ascended to is being projected. That Jupiter Mercury trine, a projection of your thoughts, a projection of your words. What meaning might be most effective in being able to touch each other so that what it is that we're doing together, Capricorn, is going to resonate with all of us. And on this day, we see that we also have a conjunction here between the Sun and Pluto, both at 29 degrees, moving into that final degree of Capricorn. That's right. This week, the shift from Capricorn to Aquarius transpires. And I happen to have been born under with the Sun in Aquarius, and we all have an Aquarius. We all have a Capricorn within us. You know, it's part of the makeup of each one of us. It's just whether we're tuned into that particular energy or how we're actually tuned into it as to what our version of playing those archetypal energies is going to be. Also on this day, sticking with it, Venus moves into a square with Neptune. The two planets here, Pisces and Sagittarius, are in signs ruled by Jupiter. Neptune has an affinity for Pisces as well, but Jupiter down here is, kind of sitting at kind of the helm's position of the ship of our living experience going on right now, saying, yo, Venus up there in Sagittarius, are you utilizing the tailwind of my Jupiterian perspective to make sure that you are expanding as much as possible how you interpret, how you express the art of engaging with others? Are you, going out of your way perhaps to make sure that you are not trying to contain yourself too much away from your interaction with other perspectives that other people with different cultural backgrounds may be bringing for you to ponder? Jupiter says, I give you permission to ponder deeply these other perspectives and take it to heart as to what is it that is most appropriate for you to grow into. Now, the Neptunian factor that moves into this stance from Pisces also brings in a factor that is just a wee bit more of a challenge from the human perspective as to how best to utilize our creative imagination. One might ask, is there a background or foreground, depending on your perspective, energy wavelength that I'm sensing might be requiring something of me that has a spiritual leaning? Here's Pisces. Is, from the Neptune perspective, my version of the living container that I represent tuned in, or is it maybe tuned out? After all, Pisces can mean, creative imagination, but also illusion. You know, one must query consistently. Is my version of what I represent effective for me to live with and for this energetic connection that I have to others, all others? After all, that is Pisces realm. Resonant with the energy of life that is eternal. In this moment, how large am I? How large can I be? How engaged with all of life factors might we share something that can allow us to grow in a creative way? And then we finally get to Saturday. Sun shifts into Aquarius. The vitality of life, the sun, moving into the field of Aquarius. There are factors in play that are Aquarian in nature, that are, they're a natural outworking, potentially, of what it is that Capricorn was attempting to bring to focus. Society, that's Aquarius. Capricorn is the resonant frequency upon which society actually might be beneficial to one another by the systems that we set up to manage ourselves. Now we come to Aquarius. Aquarius, the next sign after Capricorn, its job is to facilitate what has been initiated through the Capricornian dance. Are there processes set in motion through the Capricorn dance that we, using our Aquarian parts, can bring people together in an effective enough way that we can actually accomplish what has been set in motion? This is Aquarius's function, to be, humanitarian. There's a hint of genius that seems to play out also in that Aquarian dance. Don't hold back. If you sense that there's an invention that's, waiting, or it's percolating underneath your surface and seeking audience, this is also an aspect of that Aquarian experience. The scientist, can almost hear a tonal quality when Aquarian energies are afoot, saying, I must investigate this. And with any luck, or probably more appropriately, with the focused energy of this Aquarian archetype, might there be a wisdom that is shared one with another that we could glean the perspective of a sage. Sage is not just an individual. There's a perspective in that recognizes connection to the energy of life that all are invited to come and play with. Welcome to Aquarius. I look forward to the inventions, Aquarius also has what shall we call it? A penchant toward the facilitation of, communication tools, techniques, and relevant processes whereby the acceleration of how we compare notes with one another can transpire. On Sunday, for the second time, that's right, last year, Pluto dipped its toes into 0 degrees of Aquarius from, I think, March until June, maybe. Let's see. Look at my notes. From March to June, yeah. Just testing those Aquarian waters in Plutonic fashion. It's going to do that again this year. On Sunday, it trips across that line into Aquarius and will be in Aquarius until right near the beginning of September before it does one last little, snippet of time back into the Capricornian field. And then another 14 years of the Aquarian dance. So who is this Plutonic character that comes tripping along into the realm of Aquarius? What aspects of our humanitarian side, our engagement with one another at a social level, this is really what Aquarius stands for, is going to be uncovered as Pluto, that little teeny speck of rock way, way out there in space, demoted to a dwarf planet by the scientific astronomical community as insignificant. They didn't really know the power that Pluto represents. It has there's an intensity. Whenever Pluto is involved in anything that is so focused on, uncovering, digging up, reaching deep into any experience to bring up factors that have been hidden from us. We might ask ourselves, in our societal drive forward, are we paying attention to the ramifications of how we interact not just with one another, but with all of life? We can And it's been actually demonstrated at the societal level. Act like the good old steamroller, just rolling over stuff and flattening it in order to facilitate our forward direction, going for a goal that sits out there and not being actually aware of what it is that we are steamrolling over in our haste to be somewhere where we are not. Perhaps in this Aquarian dance with Pluto testing the waters this year, we might ask ourselves, am I present? Is my interaction with you, every other you that there is, asking questions that are effective in keeping my antenna up as to how we interact with all the aspects of this magical, beautiful living environment that we happen to be placed within. All those machinations of I'm better than you, my spiritual leaning is more appropriate than yours, my culture is the right one, yours obviously can't be. What a bunch of hooey. This is not reality. This is a manipulation of us by factors in control that, spark, a contagious contamination of how we can engage with one another in a much more beautiful and dynamic fashion than what is being demonstrated by quite a large aspect of modern society. The so-called developed countries taking advantage, and have been for a long time, of those countries that are so-called less developed. In those countries, those less developed so-called perspectives, the closeness that people have with one another is a marvel to observe. Our modern societies, we have insulation factors that have been, fabricated and built up between us, where we really do not engage at the heart level with one another. And we miss the magic that's going on all around us. Now, I am going to let that go. I want to welcome everybody to Aquarius. Happy birthday to everybody that is at the end of Capricorn, and for those of us stepping into the Aquarian space and saying, welcome to another year of adventure. I find the snow starting out 2024 with, it's kind of like, I love it. Mind you, being of the Aquarian archetype myself, winter, there's an excitement that winter brings that doesn't happen any other time in the year. Things quiet down. if you're paying attention, so that the inward focus of what it is that we don't often pay attention to is a little closer to the surface. There's an energetic in play that's saying, what else is there that I need to pay attention to? If I can just but pull myself back from the cacophonous, driven experience of go, go, go. And think, where am I in such a hurry to get to? Where am I now? And what is going on here? Closer to the heart, not so much the mental machine, the feeling, that essence of interaction with all of life. That's all I have for this week. Stop and think. Am I doing what is right for all the aspects of what it is that I am tuned into? Ciao.